Hey guys, this is AC Lockyer, and again, hey, here we are, building a lifestyle business presented by Softwash Systems. And this week, I've got Alex Todd with me, and Alex is another one of my Kansas soft washers. And as a matter of fact, Alex, I just got off the last podcast before you because I batch record these 4 at a time every month. And the one that was right before you was Marty. And so Marty says hi. And so...
Yeah, good old Marty.
Yeah. And so got Alex Todd here, and go ahead and introduce yourself, the name of your company, and where you're located.
So Alex Todd, and the business name is Twister Pro Wash, and we're located in Wichita, Kansas. So I've been in business for a while here and been with Softwash Systems since 2020.
Yeah, Wichita, Kansas. I remember back in the day, and I'll just tell you this is mostly funny to me, but my father was an elder for a number of years at our church, and he was up one Sunday morning reading the prayer requests that had come in. And, I've got these glasses you can't really tilt down to your nose because they're these clicks, but I'll put it down on my nose, and he had them down on the edge of his nose, and he's reading the index cards. I'll grab some index cards. And so he's got the index cards, and he's talking to church and reading them like this. And he says, and we want to remember to keep in prayers the people of Wichita, Kansas, that have recently gone through tornadoes.
It's one people get wrong pretty often. In fact, I work on the fire department here too, and one of the logos on the front, it spelled Wichita wrong. On the fire truck, they said it to us with the wrong spelling on that. So. Yeah, that's not uncommon.
And they haven't fixed it?
No, it's inside the cab, so the public doesn't see it, so they don't care if we see it, spelled wrong.
That's funny. So you already alluded to, because we want to get the cool stuff about you, kind of get that information, the business, soft wash stuff. You are still a full-time active firefighter, and so you're running the business, and you're also a firefighter. And so tell us a little bit about that, being a firefighter and how this works out.
Oh, it's being a firefighter is an awesome and horrible job all at the same time. Mostly just because of the things that you see. It's you get to do crazy awesome things, and then you get to see terrible things too.
You get to see people on their worst day ever. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I've been a firefighter since 2013 is when I got in the recruit class, but technically I hit the floor in 2014. So that's what it says on my badge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, we just, while we were on vacation, my next door neighbor, who was the fire chief of the city of Maitland here, he was the youngest fire chief ever. They don't get elected, but they get promoted to fire chief. The youngest fire chief ever in the state of Florida. He just retired, and he's only 45 years old. So, wow. And so, you can imagine he's pretty well set, nice retirement, stuff like that. But anyhow, so he was on vacation. I was on vacation. His scanner went off because he's bored now. He went ahead and took a job as a paramedic at one of the local fire departments. And so he still had a scanner with him. The scanner went off that one of the houses were on fire here in our neighborhood. So he's, calling me on my phone, hey, do you know what's going on? Can you go down there and tell me what's going on? I'm like, hey, I'm out of town too. And he's like, oh man. And so, one of the houses, we're in the lightning capital of the world. And so it's a pretty regular occurrence for somebody's house to get struck by lightning. And the house had gotten struck by lightning and caught on fire. And, the fire only took about 20% of the house, 25% of the house, but the smoke damages the whole house. And then they're shooting water into the house, which ruins everything and everything. And so I can't imagine going through that, watching my house being on fire and all. But it's right. You get to see people in crisis. You get to see people that have overdosed. You get to see people in horrible car accidents. Have you ever seen anything just that you can professionally share that was just funny, that you're just like, oh, you wouldn't believe what we saw the other day?
Oh man, that Rolodex is so big it's hard to pick anything. And yeah, you have to be careful what you share. But no, I mean, it's nothing I would want to share here because we get you get a certain dark humor with that job, and that's acceptable within that realm of
Right.
the people you work with that you just don't share with the public because it doesn't play well in the public eye. So no, there's probably not any.
You don't want this to show up on your next review and then be like, yeah, Alex, we're gonna have to
Exactly.
let you go.
Yeah,
You're losing
yeah,
your retirement.
yeah. So there's plenty of stories I could tell you in person, but nothing I could tell you that would go out publicly.
Oh man, that's too bad. We were at a hotel as we were traveling. We were at a hotel in New Jersey, and so the barkeep had on the TV there at the bar at the hotel in New Jersey a show, and the theme was like a show kind of like Cops, but it wasn't Cops. It was a D-rated version of Cops, and so the theme for the night was naked experiences. Of course, it was all blurred out and everything else, but it's just like, you pull somebody over for speeding and all of a sudden they get out of their car completely naked and the cop's like, wow, you can't not see, unsee that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was just like, you're just like, you're thinking to yourself, there's enough video of that kind of stuff that they could put together a TV show on it.
Oh,
and it's just like, wow, so, and it's not exactly like military service, but it is public service. So I certainly want to say thank you for your service on that. Because, without
now that I've had a moment to think about it, I suppose there is one incident where this gal had somehow managed to flip her car upside down on the hood of it. And so it didn't crumple the car. Nothing was really ruined. Just somehow the car rolled over like a roly-poly. It was just
right
on the top. On a bridge, so you could see the skid marks all across the bridge. And she said that the reason why she had managed to flip her car in the middle of the highway without anything obstructing her ability to drive down the highway was some dog had run across the road in front of her. And we're looking at the length of the bridge and where she flipped, and we're like, I don't think dogs hang out on top of bridges, overpasses on highways very often.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you saw her in her car. She had 3 different phones plugged into the charger of the car.
Oh, my goodness.
It's like, we all knew what had happened. Inattentive driving and overreaction had managed to flip the car. So, you see things like that where people just kind of like lie straight to your face and you kind of look over at your buddy and make eye contact like, yeah, right. That's what happened.
Yeah, right.
You don't say
that.
Have
anything that just turned out great? That was one of those things like, wow. We had a good day today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anytime
you usually never get fired for telling those stories.
Yeah. Anytime you make a great stop on a house fire or something like that. And that's one of the things I like about the department I'm in. We were top in the nation. I don't know if we still are because I just haven't heard those numbers in a while. But when I hired on, we were top in the nation for stopping fires to the room of origin. So that meant the fire did not go outside of the room it started in. So, very rapid response, very aggressive tactic. Fire department, and that's something that I was really happy to be part of.
No, that's cool. It's cool to be part of a team that's making a difference, and so yeah, that's cool. So family, give us some family background.
Yeah, so married since 2010. We got 3 kids, boy, girl, boy, 12, 9, and 6.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very busy home life. And 2 dogs.
And 2 dogs. Yes.
Yeah. I can't forget them, apparently.
Those are your fur babies.
Yeah, the fur babies.
Yeah.
That's funny because, when you have pets and you don't have kids, they are your fur babies.
Oh, yeah.
You have kids and you're like, just how quickly those pets drop down on the priority list is pretty funny, because they are your kids until you have kids and you realize it's not the same.
It's not the same. No. Yeah. Yeah. It's, it'd be interesting if we could get into the minds of our pets and actually know what they're thinking. Because they probably think
your kids for that matter.
I had it set until that stupid flesh baby showed up. Yeah. Or our kids for that matter. Yeah. Because kids do funny stuff.
Yeah. Every parent's asked their kid that question. What were you thinking?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So you got the kids and so what when you're outside of your business, you're outside of serving the community as a firefighter and your family. What do you like to do? What are your hobbies? What are your
Oh,
interests? What are the things that drive you?
I'm interested by quite a few things, more hobbies than I could count or have time for. But one of the things that Kansas is great for is we got a pretty low cost of living here. So that allows us to save up money for family vacations. So we can pretty consistently take 2 to 4 family vacations a year.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Great.
so like this summer, we went to Yellowstone for 2 whole weeks out there in Grand Teton and Yellowstone. Got to see black bears, grizzlies, and it took us a little while, but we found the wolves. I was telling someone it's kind of a joke. It's like, when you're in your house and you can't find anything and you finally give up on it, who do you ask? Right? You go get mom
Right.
to find the thing for you. And she reaches in, finds the mustard out of the cabinet. Well, Yellowstone's kind of the same way. She planned the whole trip, and it's my job to kind of narrow down the details on like what we were looking for. And geysers are always there. So to us, it was the animals that was interesting to find. Couldn't find the wolves. Went to where they were supposed to be. Couldn't find them. So finally went, I need help. I can't find them. And she got online, found some forums, and next thing you know, we were with a spotter scope and a spot to go with it. And within 24 hours, we were looking at wolves, out there in the wild, and that was great. So she really came through for us on that one. Find the wolves.
Thanks, Mom.
2 days of the 2-week trip, we finally found them.
Well, that's cool. And so, were you guys there when the geyser actually exploded? Did you hear about that?
No, actually, I think that were we in Florida? I think we were in Florida for the 5-star. When that happened, so maybe it was just after that.
I think it was just after that.
Yeah. We came home from Yellowstone, spent 2 weeks at home, and then came down to Florida for 5-star. And I brought the whole family, and so we spent a week there on the beach when I wasn't. They were on the beach every day, and I was on the beach when I wasn't in class with you guys.
Yeah. It was wild. Wasn't Old Faithful, it was one of the ones that's close to it, and it just the dome on it just blew up. And while people were there and everything else, and they got video of it, you can look at the video, and it's luckily nobody got seriously injured, but it looked pretty massive when it happened.
Yeah. So my oldest had been in McDonald's to use the restroom or something while they were waiting for food, and he heard Yellowstone on the news.
Yeah.
Turn around and watch the TV. And I think that's great because I don't think that if he hadn't just been there on vacation, he had never been there yet.
Right.
Yellowstone wouldn't have meant anything to him. Yeah. But then he whipped around and saw the video and came out to tell mom, all excited about it. And so I thought that was just great that, I felt bad, of course, for the tourists that were scurrying from that. But I thought it was great because he was associated that with where he had been. And so now that meant something to him. And so I felt like that was just a perfect example of how his horizons had been expanded to, wider eyes for the world.
Oh yeah, for sure. Very cool. So you like the outdoorsy stuff. You like to go on vacations. What are some other cool places you've been on vacation? I mean, 4 vacations a year. That's a lot. You're almost keeping up with Darren Smith over in the UK.
Yeah,
I think you do 5 or 6 a year, but 4 a year is pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, 2 to 4. So I want maybe 3 is average, but we really like our cruises on Carnival. That's been a great wintertime vacation, and we've taken the kids skiing. Well, we took Hudson skiing. The other 2 were too young for that. But we took different cruises. So we had different stops. Love Maui. Maui's great, but I haven't been there since we started up doing the cruises. Colorado's great for skiing and also for summertime trips. See where else? Most have been trying to do camping trips with the kids. So Branson is another place we've been going pretty consistently.
Yeah, love Branson.
Yeah. And then the Wichita Mountains, which ironically are not anywhere close to Wichita. They're in southern Oklahoma.
Yes.
So that's pretty much the list. Float trips too, canoeing, floating down the river. I learned a lesson on that trip personally where I had my phone in my pocket, and I learned that having your phone, the $10 a month it is to have your phone back up at night, every night with photos and everything is so worth it because end of 2020, and we had just started in soft washing, so I was getting really detailed before and after photos, but I had never plugged my phone in for like a year to back it up to my computer.
Oh no.
and it fell out of my pocket on that float trip because it was the first time we'd been on rafts instead of canoes. So it wasn't something that was on my mind. And yeah, so it went in the drink and never, not a whole year of photos gone. So
That sucks when it
life
happens.
lesson there.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. So, so being a firefighter, people are familiar with the fact that you're on a certain number of days, off a certain number of days. You've got a different type of schedule, and you see a lot of people that are firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, people that work in that industry. Will get entrepreneurial and start little side hustle businesses, and of course yours is a little more than a side hustle now, that's for sure. And how did you get into this? What made you say, other than just being a firefighter and it kind of being part of the culture, what made you want to become an entrepreneur and start a business?
Well, I kind of always had that calling since a young age. And actually, when I was 17, I started mowing lawns.
Okay.
So I started my own business with mowing lawns long before I was on the fire department. And I enjoyed that, but it was also very seasonal. And so I hit this point where I was tired of pushing the mower.
Right.
And I wanted to get a riding lawnmower. Well, the HOA we lived in won't let us park a trailer up front. So I had to find a place to rent to put the mower. I had to get the mower. I had to get the trailer. It just became too much to expand that at that age with the money I had. So I started looking for other avenues and came into window cleaning because my great aunt in Seattle had done that for a number of years.
Okay.
And also some local friends down south of us. So
and it's like, now, and where am I going to put this 5-gallon bucket this evening? You know?
Yeah. Exactly. It's so much easier to park
little smaller equipment. Yeah.
And I could wash windows for a much longer period of time as long as it wasn't below freezing. Windows needed cleaned, and so it was just a better business model. So that's how I went from mowing to getting into the cleaning world. So that started in 2008 is when I got into window cleaning, and then it was just a job. As much as I wanted it to be a business, I didn't know how or which way to go with that. And then 2014, when I got on the fire department, I hired my first employees because I had to,
right,
to keep the business going. So that's how I ended up with employees. And did I do the greatest job hiring employees at first? No, because I had not done the correct thing of looking outward for more information.
Sure.
But come 2019, that's when I finally kind of wanted the business to be real, to be something more than just a side gig. And so that's when I started reading stuff like the E-Myth Revised and started looking out there for coaching programs. And that's when I came across you guys there with Softwash Systems. And so 2019 was where kind of like my eyes opened up and I started looking around, and 2020 is when I started making decisions on how to move forward and
really formalizing things.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you a question. This is half just kind of poking for fun and half kind of serious. I do know that you've got a spiritual element in your life and everything else. Yep. Are you Jehovah's Witness?
Yeah, I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Yep.
I think it's freaking in the DNA of Jehovah's Witnesses to go into the window cleaning business.
Yeah.
Like there are so many Jehovah's Witnesses in the window cleaning business. So did
Absolutely.
You know Jeremiah and Marty through the church?
That's the really funny thing is the way Kansas is split and where our large conventions where thousands of us come together for the weekend to have a convention, and so multiple congregations in the area come together. So you get thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses in the local area at the same place. Where the circuit is split, they're in another circuit. So I would not have been in the same
exposed to them or knew them or anything.
Your circle gets about that big, and usually unless you're really purposefully reaching out to widen your circle, that's where it's right. So I didn't know Jeremiah and Marty, and I met Jeremiah at Softwash Systems, the Discover Softwash. And it's funny though, because as Jehovah's Witnesses, we get to know each other so well, and we have such a similar base knowledge of the Bible that it's funny. You can be in like a crowd of people and you can like pick out Jeremiah and I were like eyeballing each other. It was the funniest thing. We're sitting there, and I said something, and it caught his ear, and then he said something that caught my ear, and it wasn't hyper specific. But as soon as lunch broke, we came up to each other like, "Are you? What congregation are you from? And where are you from? You're from Kansas? Like, there's no way that you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses and from Kansas, and I haven't met you, but that's the way it was." So, yeah, that was just kind of a funny thing, when you meet a spiritual brother, you sometimes, and that's the way it worked out with Jeremiah and I. So, yeah, we couldn't be separated after that. There,
well, my book, The 5 Keys to Pattern Success. You got be deliberate, execute, analyze, replicate, systemize. After a while, and it's funny when I go to like the IWCA, International Window Cleaning Association. I got to promise you, 50% of the people there have got to be Jehovah's Witness. It's like Michael Draper, you meet people and everything else there. You're like, or if you meet somebody and they're a window cleaner, it's almost like I look at them and go, "Are you a Jehovah's Witness?" And they're like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" Because you're a window cleaner. It's just,
exactly.
And part of the reason is, and Jeremiah and I talk about this quite a bit, is part of the reason is it gives you the ability to have a business and not have a boss and be able to turn things on and turn things off. And when it's time to, you always have the time off to go to church. Every time the church doors are open, you can go to your small groups. You can go to Wednesday night or the different sessions and everything. You can go to the conventions and you can participate in things. So being an entrepreneur makes it a little easier to be a lot more, dedicated or involved in your church. But it's just very, very interesting. And so, I look at it and I'm like, Jehovah's Witness, window cleaners. And I just need to advertise to window cleaners or Jehovah's Witness and bring them into soft wash systems. And I'll have an endless stream of licensed affiliates coming into the program because it's crazy. There's like, I think at least 15 Jehovah's Witnesses in soft wash systems. And and Christians, and we talked about this before too. Christians just seem to be more disciplined. They understand, salesmanship is like sharing the gospel. And they just grasp a lot of the concepts and they're just like super entrepreneurs. And there's some Christians out there that are lazy entrepreneurs, but it just seems like if you understand the way the world is wired up and you understand, usually Christians get service and being a servant and being in the service business and all. It's just amazing to me how well they do. But that we could go. Well, Jeremiah and I already went on that tangent.
Yeah,
the podcast is already, up on the podcast show, so we don't need to do that. But it is funny and interesting that all three of my Kansas guys are Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
And all three had window cleaning, DNA.
It all started as window cleaners. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you started to go into finding soft wash systems. So tell me a little bit about that process. How did you find soft wash systems and why did it sing to you?
Well, a little bit of it was watching Brandon Vaughn, and I came across you and Brandon Vaughn almost the same time.
Right.
When I was, like I said, just looking out for more information. And Brandon Vaughn had definitely been successful with you guys, so that was part of it for sure. And then also we went to the huge convention in Branson, Missouri. So I actually got to meet you there. I don't know if you remember that, but that's where we actually first met. And it was funny because
all three of my Kansas guys came from the huge convention as well. Yeah.
Oh, so Jeremiah and Marty were both there at the
They're both from the huge convention too.
That's funny. That's funny because, didn't meet them there.
Again,
so,
replicate, systemize.
Yeah. So I met you and I was much more interested in the window cleaning stuff because I still didn't completely understand what soft washing was and how much I could grow the business with that. But you talked to me for a minute and you were polite, but you also kind of said something, well, you're going to need to make some big changes with your business. And then you're just kind of done with the conversation. And I could tell it was just in the body, mannerisms and everything. And at the time, I almost thought it was just a little bit rude. I'm like, I guess I'm just not a big enough fish for him to fry. And now I understand with like the disc profile, it's like, well, you'd said what you needed to say, and you're just kind of like ready for the next one. And there's a little bit of too, like I think you're fishing for lunker bass. Is that what you call them, right?
The schoolie bass versus the lunker bass. So the lunker bass is an attitude of what you eat.
So,
schoolie bass run around and eat minnows and they never grow up. So,
and there's no doubt I was a small business, and I think you saw it for what it was, and you were like, well, if there's any lunkers around here, this
all you need to do is tell me you're a Jehovah's Witness and I would have been in.
yeah. That was just kind of a funny little thing, like getting to know you better now. I like understand that interaction better. It's like that.
Yeah,
deeper
this helps a
like,
lot.
All right, that was great. So next.
Yeah. No, and at trade shows, I love trade shows. I love talking to people and all, but you've got so many people in the booth and I'm making eye contact, making sure everybody else is getting taken care of and served.
And no one's
and sometimes, I'm like, okay, it sounds like we're done with this conversation. So let me go take care of this guy before he thinks I'm being rude because I'm spending too much time with this person. And it's tough. It's difficult, to balance it and talk to everybody and all. So I forgive for I apologize for being
but I knew what it was at the time. It was exactly what you just said. It was people coming and going, but just funny to understand the disc profile now and just understand some of those things through a different lens. Right. And in 2020 hindsight, it's always interesting.
I'm task oriented. I'm like, okay, let me talk to everybody. I got to touch everybody. So yeah.
And then then we got in touch with your managers down there at Soft Wash Systems and got on the schedule for the Discover Soft Wash. And but getting into Soft Wash Systems wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. It was, I did appreciate that we had to check all the boxes for you guys. You didn't let just anybody in. But then also once we did get in and we got our equipment and initially we didn't go with your guys' skid, which that's a whole nother story, total mistake. But then COVID happened. Mm-hmm. So we had just started and all of our business was commercial, mm-hmm. none residential. So trying to scream loud enough in that environment of 2020 with COVID and an election, you could not scream loud enough in advertising to get anyone interested in what you're doing. It didn't matter if they had the greenest house on the block. Their ears weren't tuned to that channel.
Right.
So the first year was a difficult year because we created a lot of overhead, rebranded the business, and then it just kind of stalled out. But we survived 2020 and 2021 things picked up. And a lot of it was because of soft washing, about 50% of it. And so that's partially how we stayed in business, was because we got into soft washing and we had more we could advertise to. So that even in 2021, a lot of commercial business really hadn't completely picked back up yet.
Right.
We're able to fill those gaps in with the residential work.
And also too, and we don't want to glance over the fact of the matter is you were not in a starvation situation because your business had wasn't happening in 2020 with after your rebrand, trying to regain traction and cut through everything that was going on in 2020. You're a firefighter, so you still had an income coming in, and that was a huge blessing. And a lot of times people will come to me and because of my personality style, people will come to me and say, hey, what should I do? Should I, go into business? And I'm like, yeah, burn the bridges, sell everything you have, buy a soft wash skid, go into the business. You'll be fine. And, because I would be fine, but that's the way I'm wired up. I just go out and, and just put my head down, pull the plow and make everything happen. And not everybody's that way. And now as I'm 55 now, I look at people and go, well, let's look at what you have going on. And, so I don't want to lead anybody astray. I want to give them a measured response. Yes, I would like to see people to discover soft wash systems and see the benefit that we bring and how we can really help them, build a sustainable business. But also too, I don't want people to get hurt in the meantime and, and burn their bridges and quit their job and jump right in with both feet. And then all of a sudden they're eating ramen going, I don't love AC anymore,
And, personally, I would like to be the burn the bridges type person.
Yeah.
But I had 3 kids and a wife.
That's right.
And the risk, it's life is about balance to me, like you have to mitigate your risks as much as possible. And with me having the 24/48 schedule, 24 hours on, 48 hours off, I can run a business And I had a history of having employees already. And so I knew I could still grow the business without having to dedicate more time. It was about being more selective with what levers I'm building and which levers I'm pulling to make sure that the business grew without investing more time. And so that was why I kept my job with the fire department, as much as I'm still looking at the door with that job. And that, that's a hard thing to do. Just like you said with your buddy there, it's like you want to have the freedom of being that guy with the business that's turnkey and able to spend time wherever he wants to. But man, there's a certain part of the job where you love running to the fires. You love running lights,
the adrenaline,
and the adrenaline, just the fun of the job and the guys and all of that. So there is a certain part of me that's like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to leave just because of that element of it, because I do love the job. And so it's not a hatred of the job that I am trying to leave. It's just, that time factor of like, it's also ideal. You'd love to be that turnkey business guy. It's like,
I get a lot. We get a lot of our entrepreneurs that, whether they're firefighters or they're, in the military reserves, or they're a teacher. I was talking to one of our entrepreneurs this morning, and, his wife's a teacher, and he's like, she's still got a couple more years before she's going to retire. And we want to make sure that she retires and we get that retirement. And, and so for you, I don't know how many years you have, but I've talked to other people that are in your position, and they're like, I still got another 3-4 years before I can retire from the fire department and get my full retirement. And, 35-year-old AC would go, I quit, jump ship, just go ahead and do it, because you're going to make way more money and put money and have value in your business. And, and that retirement, you're going to forget about that retirement. Nowadays, I'm like, well, you can have the business and you got the firefighter retirement, and, you should probably go ahead and ride that wave out and get that retirement, because it's going to mean something to you one day. I was talking to, do you remember what I said to Mitch with Dalmatian soft wash at the 5-star retreat?
No, I don't remember that one.
Mitch was, in there, we're doing our $1 million maps, and he's kind of struggling with, where they live and should they move to grow and how much time he wants to put into it. And his kids really don't want to take over the company and everything else. And I said, well, Mitch, I said, well, how's your retirement? I mean, how much do you need? Because Mitch is like 65 years old. I said, do you need to put money aside for retirement? He's like, well, no. He says, I got my military retirement. And I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty good. He said, yeah. And then I was in the fire station for 20 years. And I went, oh, okay. And he says, and then I worked for the city, for a number of years too, and I'm like, hold on. Are you telling me you got 3 retirements going? He said, yeah. I said in front of everybody, I said, Mitch, you need to sell your business and retire.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? He goes, well, AC, I just like cleaning stuff. I'm like, dude, and that's what we try to do. We're trying to give people good advice, and this isn't just about me putting, shields on the map. We're doing this for you guys and making sure you guys achieve your life's goals and dreams. And so you found soft wash systems, you jumped into the business, you fixed the equipment situation, and you ended up getting a skid, and so things are moving along, seems pretty good. Where are you going with this now? What is the 5-year glimpse, 10-year glimpse? What do you want to do now? You're building a lifestyle business. How does that play in? What's your lifestyle that you're trying to achieve?
So, I enjoy growing the business. I enjoy the challenges it presents you with to grow it. Obviously, sometimes those challenges are frustrating. Learning new ones, but when you get through it, you can be proud of what you've accomplished. So with the business, I would like to get it big enough here in Wichita. And the reason I want size is not as much about the money as what it does for the camaraderie and just the size of the business as far as the people that are there.
Sure.
When you get a business big enough, it becomes self-sufficient. because the people that are there have careers there. And, when you lose one person, they're a smaller percent of your employee base.
Right.
And so it does become
Not as
easier
devastating.
to have them replaced. Not that you ever want to see a turnover rate, but it becomes easier. And then if I can get that going here, I would like to expand into other territories. I think that would be fun. But, it's getting that first one built right, and all the mistakes you learn from there that gets you there. So ideally, I would like to be, what do you call it, a 5-star ranch, So right now we're still out of the house, out of the garage, the shop as we call it. So that's our next biggest step, is trying to get enough put on the board that it makes sense for us to have a commercial location.
Right.
And hopefully maybe a second skid, because of what that does for the business. It allows us to have 2 lead techs and 2 technicians out there, so where if someone's calling in sick, you can still kind of shuffle the schedule around and make it work. Whereas when you're smaller and it's just 1 lead tech and 1 technician, someone calls in sick, all of a sudden you're on the truck.
Yeah.
But and that's how I've kind of looked at the business growing it too. It's just like I've become more and more insistent that, like, I never go out on the truck anymore. I never go out and do production anymore. It's like, if I don't do it, I'm going to be forced to find a way to get new employees in the door to do production. If I make it a rule that I don't do it, then all of a sudden you'll find ways. And so I'm trying to do the same thing next year with the sales. Like, I don't do sales, period. Then there's only 1 or 2 options. Right. Business dies, or you find a way to do it.
Or you find salespeople. Yeah.
Yep. So it's kind of like putting those roadblocks in your way almost on purpose. So like going to Yellowstone for 2 weeks was great because it showed holes in the business that I can fix. And, 2 weeks isn't long enough that the business is going to collapse without you, but it is long enough to put a strain on how reliant is the business on you.
Right.
And how well is it reliant on the systems you have in place?
That's excellent. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And that's what you want to do is a lot of people are afraid to fail, but sometimes you want to push your company a little bit to the point of failure so they can expose where the weaknesses are, like you're saying, so that you can see what you need to tune up. And and that's why you put a car on a dyno to tune it. You don't tune it idling. You tune it, under the stress and the duress of doing 3,500, 4,000, 4,500 RPM, and that's when you're able to get in there and make those adjustments, to fuel and air and all the things that make that engine run better. And so, interesting. And so, if you achieve this, how is this going to impact your lifestyle and your family? Does it change the schools your kids are going to? Does it change the house that you're living in? Does it change the ministry opportunities or your ability to support the church financially? How does this going to affect the lifestyle?
Yeah, so I've always been really protective, in particular, of my ability to say, I want next week off. Mm-hmm. And so when I was looking at the job, even with the fire department, when I was getting on the fire department, I was looking at, okay, how do you get time off from that job when you want it? Because, if they only give you 2 weeks a year and it's on their schedule when you get those off, that doesn't work for me. Right. And so like with the fire department, I can trade days off. And so it's the same thing with the soft wash systems, being able to give you the levers to pull on the business so that you can find that time off. So the bigger the business gets, the easier it is, like I said, with the employees being able to train each other and that kind of stuff. The bigger the business gets, the easier it is to say, well, I'm going to take next week off. Mm-hmm. And nothing detrimental happens. So that's, for me, the biggest goal is why I want to grow. It's not so much about the dollar amount, because I'm happy with the house we're in. We've got a pool. And that's not to say we spent a lot of money. We got it in foreclosure. We were careful about how we spent the money there. We like the schools we're in. Hudson our oldest wants to homeschool this year, so we're going to see how that goes. Good. So financially, we're pretty happy with where we're sitting, but we want to grow the business mostly because of what that does for our time, our ability, and really kind of come back to the vacations. Like, can I take 4 vacations every year on the quarter? Yeah. When I want to, or you find out there's a party at your friend's house in another state, can you take that time off without it
and just go,
without it just ruining your bank account? Well, that's great. So for me, that's what it is. It's about the time freedom. And that's why I like to grow the businesses, because it's fun to do that, but then it gives you that time freedom. Just be like, oh, you know what? Next week we're going to go on a flip trip.
Well, that's very, very cool. So as we're kind of trying to wrap this up and all, we don't want this to be a Softwash Systems infomercial, but it is, of course, sponsored by Softwash Systems. If somebody was looking into getting into the cleaning business and they were looking at Softwash Systems, what would you say to them?
Well, first off, I want to make sure they want to clean stuff outside instead of inside. But no, the great thing about Softwash Systems is they have all the systems in place you need right in one spot. And while we don't use every single system exactly how you guys use it, you've got to start somewhere, and then you can build off of that for your own company culture. And so that those building blocks are great, and you get almost all of what you need in one foul swoop with Softwash Systems. And so that's why I'd recommend Softwash Systems to anyone looking to start an exterior cleaning business, because you don't know what you don't know. And so once you figure out the system and from Softwash Systems, you got to do it for a while their way, and then you can see if you can improve it. But it's just so much easier to have at least one way to do it, and then you find out what you need from there. And so instead of wandering around in the dark, you get a sense of direction, and then you can start picking left or right, but at least you're moving.
And it's made a significant difference for you?
Oh, absolutely. Like the leaderboards that we have set up, just the way you get to communicate with the employees about, like, for example, even if you weren't wanting to grow into $1 million business, in some of the podcasts, the guys are happy to be on the truck. Right. And that's great. But most of them still have a helper. And I think it was Brandon Vaughn that had the story of how he had a helper with him. And after a while, he saw the checks coming in, and he's like, I should have half the check, not my hourly wage or percentage of them or whatever it was. And so even if you were just wanting to stay small, things like the pro forma and helping the employee understand, well, 10% is going to this, and 5% is going to chemical, and 5% is going to advertising, like, of every single dollar. So you're budgeted in here, but this is the limit of the budget. And
that only 100 pennies in the dollar.
Yeah. And so that helps keep the drama out of the business. It's managing through facts and information, not through feelings and intimidation.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, any other parting words or anything as we were wrapping up here?
No. I would definitely recommend Softwash Systems to anyone, and the equipment too. There's going to be some sticker shock when you're first getting into it, but when you understand the automation of it and the simplicity of it compared to what else is out there, that was probably one of my biggest hurdles. Was once I bought a piece of equipment for a cheaper price, but then what it cost me was the downtime. And so if every day it was down, it was embarrassing for me to tell customers, like, hey, yes, we're going to get you to take care of this day, or maybe tomorrow, because then we'll get another pump in. That kind of stuff was driving me nuts. And so there were days without production. There's embarrassment with clients. But when we got over to your guys' system, you guys have been building them long enough. You've worked all these kinks out that it was a huge confidence boost just to be able to tell people, like, yeah, this day we're going to get you taken care of. And, all of our soaps are going to draw the way they're supposed to. And our plant wash is going to draw the way it's supposed to. So we're not going to be burning your landscape and all that kind of stuff. So the sticker shock was there for sure, but it's well worth it, because when you average it out on your daily basis, that amount is pretty small compared to what you're making. Right. And so that downtime is really what killed us the first couple of years in business. So it's really nice to be in the 6X skid.
Yeah, that's the way it is with anything. Any equipment you buy for any business, or if you buy a boat to go fishing, or you buy a fishing rod or anything else like that, you want to enjoy fishing. You don't want to be pulling out backlashes out of your reel. because the magnets were cheap on the bay casting reel. So yeah, I mean, if you just lose 2 days a month in lost production and you were doing $1,500 a day in production, that's $3,000 a month in downtime. It doesn't take, but a very short period of time in a 1 year period of time, you spent $36,000 in downtime and lost revenues and unrealized revenue.
It makes it not fun.
And it makes
the joy out of it
not fun. It takes the joy out of it for sure. So, yep. Good tools. If you take care of, buy good tools, number one, take care of your tools, number two, and then your tools won't fail you, and you'll enjoy your life. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for this time and having a chance to talk to you. And I just appreciate you so much. I know, it's sometimes, it like when you bought that other piece of equipment, you're like, oh, dang, I didn't make a good decision there. And even when you bought our piece of equipment, you went home and you were like, oh, I should have got a bigger tank for this. And we, went ahead and took care of you with that and all that stuff. You've been a joy to work with, and I love watching you flourish, and I love meeting your family, and you're doing great. And I see big things for you, and hope we do another chat like this a couple years down the road and we get the update, and you have another branch and a couple more trucks and you're just doing well. So
yeah, that'd be nice.
It'll be cool.
That was funny. You talking about meeting my family. You're about to have a grandbaby, aren't you, in the family?
Yeah.
It was funny because my youngest was sitting across the table from you down there, and I was looking at you. I was like, he's looking into his future there, talking to my youngest. I could tell you're ready for the grandkid.
Oh yeah. I love kids. I've got a soft spot in my heart for kids, and it just makes everything worthwhile. So yeah, it's my wife and I, when we went to Abilene Christian University our freshman year, they dedicated a big bronze statue there. And it's a husband and wife holding up their baby and dedicating it to the Lord. And we came up, when we were dating, we came up with a single sentence mission statement for our lives. And it was Christian grandbabies. Christian grandbabies. And so, so we're getting to realize that, you got to have grandbabies to have Christian grandbabies. You have to have grandbabies first.
Yeah.
And so we love kids and everything.
No pressure for your kids there.
Yeah. And so, so it's a good place to be, and a good place to be going into for sure.
Yeah. Congratulations on that. Look forward to meeting the little guy.
All right, cool. All right, guys. So, hey, listen, if you guys are looking for some way to start a business or improve your business, some of you guys might be in the exterior cleaning business and just absolutely drowning and struggling, and you're like, how do I work my way out of this? It just might be joining up with Soft Wash Systems and joining a team that's going to help you iron out the wrinkles in your business and help do some of the stuff that just frankly you're either not good at or you don't like doing. And so that's what we do here at Soft Wash Systems. We put the systems in the soft washing business, and we allow you to not have to reinvent the wheel. We've got a wheel that you guys can already bolt on, like Alex has done here with his company. So give us a call if you'd like to look into that. But anyhow, my name's AC Lockyer. This is Alex Todd with Twister Soft Wash. And guys, as always, go forth and prosper, and we'll see you on the next podcast.